You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by Nax.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Leonard, and here on Convenience Matters, we talk about things that matter to convenience stores. If they matter to convenience stores, they matter to just about everybody because we get about 160 million customers every single day.
And I'm Carolyn Schneer with Nax, and I'm keeping you up to date with all things convenient.
And today what we're going to be talking about is what's going on in the grocery industry and also how that intersects with convenience stores. So today, our guest is Phil Lempert. He is a food industry analyst and perhaps best known as the Supermarket Guru. So welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Carolyn.
Hey, Phil.
And thank you for joining us via Skype. Now, let's just start off in looking at what are some of the big trends that are going on in the supermarket or grocery industry. Obviously, things are changing very rapidly in retail. With the effects of the internet, and what are we seeing in grocery stores?
Probably the two biggest factors are new competition from smaller stores. In fact, think of them as larger convenience stores. Aldi, Lidl, certainly what Amazon Go is purporting to become. That really has the supermarket industry very, very nervous, and it should be. That's number one. Number two is food deflation. As we've seen prices come down, what retailers have had to do across all channels is frankly dig into their own pockets in order to compete. Now, price deflation is really a misnomer because we had the highest prices for foods that we've had in probably 10 years. So I call it more of a readjustment that we're getting back to normal, but the retailers, especially supermarket retailers, are scrambling to keep the customers that they have.
And when you talk about price deflation, that's I think, interesting because we saw that restaurant prices are going up and grocery or typical grocery products are going down, yet restaurants are becoming more in the way of, grocery stores are becoming more like restaurants. So is there a way to kind of expand prices as you look at not bringing something home but eating it in the grocery store?
Well, the problem is for restaurants that with the $15 an hour minimum wage effort, the money's got to come from somewhere. So even if you don't have prices go up, and they have been going up in restaurants as well, your labor cost is skyrocketing. Your waste cost is skyrocketing. More regulations than ever before. So that's really been what's happening with restaurants. Now, the new format that you're talking about, grocerants, that we've seen folks like Sheetz and Wawa do for a number of years very effectively, that's the future. We're seeing more supermarkets and convenience stores moving to that format because, frankly, what they want is they want to be all things food. Whether you want to make a meal from scratch, whether or not you want to have prepared foods that you microwave, whether you want to eat in the store or go next door to their white tablecloth restaurants, supermarkets want to heavily compete with this restaurant sector. And, frankly, they're stepping up and doing a great job.
Now, there's, Phil, the same thing you mentioned with the all things food. Home delivery, whether it's something like you just said, making something at home, like a meal kit or something, or it's just simply phoning in or ordering in your meal, picking up your entire all the products at the convenience store, at the grocery store. Now, this is a threat to everybody. I mean, Amazon Fresh is one of those, but even your own competitors are doing this now with apps and whatnot.
Correct. Now, when we look at meal kits, we've got to look at the models that are going to work and the models that are not going to work. Folks like Brew Apron, in my opinion, they're not going to work. It's not sustainable. First of all, it's reported that their waste factor is around 40%. Number two, consumers don't want to be able to order 2 or 3 days ahead. They also don't want to order 3, 4, or 5 meals ahead, no matter how many $9.99 meals are out there and you get 3 free. Frankly, you look at the numbers and they're not getting a lot of repeat customers. So what we're seeing with meal kits, and let's talk about that first, is we're seeing a lot of supermarkets and convenience stores creating their own meal kits. Not at $9.99, but frankly, what they're doing it is 2 meals for $9.99 or 2 meals for $12.99. And it's really ramping up very quickly. In fact, Publix announced their test just a few months ago. And what they're doing is they're now having meal kits that are in 2 or 3 different levels of expertise in your home kitchen. So this is burgeoning very quickly. Again, those ones that you deliver that are overpackaged, delivered by FedEx, they're probably not going to be around in a year or 2 years from now. When it comes to home delivery, whole different story. Now, the one hybrid that's going to work with meal kits is with Amazon and Martha Stewart. It's called Martha and Marley. And what they're doing is you can order, 2 hours ahead and have it delivered. It doesn't have all that wasteful packaging. And frankly, Martha Stewart has become relevant to a whole new generation because of her MTV show with Snoop Dogg. So that one I'm really looking at very carefully because that's going to hit a home run. Now, when we look at home delivery, a lot of supermarkets are doing it. Amazon Fresh, as you mentioned, is doing it. Probably the biggest one on the horizon is Instacart, that now just got another $400 million worth of investment, venture capital investment, and they're expanding in just about every city that you can imagine. Now, at the same time, what's going on, which makes it even more complicated, is what we're hearing from a lot of consumers is they don't want to have to stick around. They don't want to have to wait for this delivery. So now supermarkets are going to a click and collect model. So you order online, you drive up. It actually looks like a 1950s, drive-in burger place that you saw on Happy Days and so on. And they'll bring out the groceries to your car. That's the same concept that Amazon Fresh, their brick and mortar model is, but in their case, on the second floor, there's actually robots who are picking the order. So you can't walk up and down the aisles. You come in, if you hadn't ordered before, you can just hit a kiosk, order then, and then a robot's going to pick your order, and you can just pick it up and drive away. So with all these things going on, for me, living in this supermarket and convenience store world, this is the most exciting time ever. The bad news is that there's going to be a lot of people who can't keep up, and they're going to go out of business.
And I think you just addressed, but I think what most people have said is the biggest concern or the biggest challenge with delivery is the cost of doing it, the labor. And somebody said, okay, when you're looking at a 1% profit margin with the grocery stores, somebody buys $100 worth of groceries, you make $1. But if you're paying somebody $20 to pick and to deliver those groceries, you're down $19. So how is this sustainable? Is it going to be through robots, through not using humans, and that combination of having people do a little bit of the work to get to the store?
Well, I think it's a combination of robotics as well as manual labor. But let's remember that 1% number goes out a lot, especially from the trade associations that represent supermarkets. That's the net profit. The gross profit is just over 25%. So that margin is really what they have to work with. And also, if you look at Instacart's model, for example, what they do is they give the driver, and it depends on what city they're in. So the numbers that I'm going to offer could be correct in your city. It could be more, it could be less. But they get approximately $5 to $7 for every order. Then what they get is they get 40 cents per item that they have to pick. Now, if you order, 5 bottles of vodka, for example, that's just one item. That's not 5 items. It's like, what happens when you go to that checkout that says 15 items or less, and the person in front of you says, I've got, 20 bottles of water. That's only one item. Well, that's the way Instacart works as well. And then they give a bump up to their customers, to their pickers, if it's order over $200, and then another bump up of $5 if it's over $400. So it's a very complicated algorithm. So it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we're going to pay minimum wage or less than minimum wage for these people to do it. Now, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, that's why the click and collect model makes so much more sense for retailers versus delivery. With delivery, you've got the cost of gas. You've got mostly independent contractors who are doing that, whether it's through Uber. We've heard the horror stories with some of their drivers, or whether it's Instacart and so on. And until it becomes a workforce that is really a full-time workforce or a more permanent, even if it's part-time workforce, we're going to have a lot of issues that, frankly, I think click and collect, whether it's in a convenience store or a supermarket, makes a lot of sense for a lot of consumers, and they don't have to tip. So what I'm hearing from consumers, especially on a lot of these delivery services that charge a service fee, they're paying a service fee. Sometimes they're not getting all the deals that they would have gotten from their frequent shopper card. They're not using coupons, and they've got to give a tip. So consumers are telling me, all of a sudden I woke up and I'm paying 25 or 30% more for my groceries, and frankly, that convenience just isn't worth that kind of money.
I was in Eagan, Minnesota a week or so ago, and we were visiting a convenience store, and we went to Hy-Vee's, the new Hy-Vee's there, and the local convenience store, I asked him what the biggest threat to his business is, and he says, it's that Hy-Vee's, and it said, you need to check it out. And there was just 5 or 6 different grab-and-go or make-on-demand type food offers. There was a sit-down restaurant. There was dry cleaning. There was electric vehicle charging. The whole center of the store looked different. It was very minimal compared to a typical grocery store. And so my thought was that they are reacting to a variety of external factors, and that is putting it more on competition to convenience stores. And so do you see any other broad or what are the broad trends that may be pushing grocery to look more as direct competition to convenience stores?
Well, I love your example of Hy-Vee, and I've actually been in that store. And if you take a look at a lot of what Hy-Vee is doing in prepared foods and in convenience, it's dramatic. So for a lot of their traditional stores, what you find as you drive in this huge parking lot is you'll actually see a Hy-Vee convenience store. Then you'll see their gas station, then a car wash, and then now a Caribou Coffee. Then behind that is their 80,000 square foot store, which has, as you point out, the clothing, the grocerant. They now have, I believe it's over 100 market grill sit-down restaurants. They're doing things that are extraordinary. And when you walk in a lot of their stores, typically, yes, you'll see the produce department, but also they'll have these big dessert departments. They're making their own flavored cream cheese for their bagels. They're really becoming all things food, to my point before. And I think we're starting to see a lot more stores do exactly that format. ShopRite in Morris Plains, New Jersey is another one who's really doing a superb job following that model.
I'll have to go and visit that. My parents live up that way.
Okay.
One of the things that just made me think of is destination and experience. Those are 2 words that we've been hearing a lot about. And in this case, you need dessert. You've got a birthday party coming up and you need to buy a cake for, Morris Plains, New Jersey for your father's birthday or something. Then you just have to go to that part of the store. And so it's really like playing the entire destination thing, but that's also the experience too, because you feel like maybe you're in a gourmet bakery and you're just in that segment of the store, but then you go over the other way and now you're in a produce section. So is that something that stores and retailers can do to differentiate themselves?
Yes, and I think experience leads destination. It used to be whatever the closest store was that we would go to, not anymore. If you can create this experience, and let's look at that ShopRite in Morris Plains that we're talking about. So they've got a daycare center. They've got a registered dietitian there who holds classes. They actually have an exercise room behind the dietitian's office where they hold classes for exercising. They have a juice bar. They have a clam bar. They've got a seafood bar. They've got an Italian section, the produce department. They barbecue their own meats. They've got, in fact, if you sign up for their exercise classes, you get 10% off the juice bar, which really smartly is at the total opposite end of the store. So as you want to collect your 10% off the juices, you're walking through produce and all these prepared foods. So yes, I think that the job of a retailer is twofold. One is to create an experience. And again, if you look in the C-store world, Wawa, Hubbard's Cupboard, Sheetz have done that really effectively. Quick Trip has done that. It's more than just gas on the outside and quick snacks on the inside. They're creating an experience. Ryan Sheetz and I often talk, and he says to me his challenge is making people want to eat dinner in a gas station. and he does it really, really well.
I really like what you're talking about with the experiential element. And we were looking at some of your videos, and one of the ones that really struck me is you were talking about the vending machines that slow down for certain products and speed up for healthy products. And obviously at NACS, there's a big trend where working with a Partnership for Healthy America, looking at healthy choices in stores. How you have any experience in looking at what are the pros and cons of putting healthy out there when people may not necessarily want it that day?
Well, I think that the world has changed dramatically. I think that people finally are recognizing this connection between what we eat and how we live and how long we live and how well we live. So that's the good news. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of products that are out there that are not as healthy, that taste really good or very inexpensive. So that's our challenge. So this vending machine that you point out, basically, and it's just in the testing phase now at a university, when you order something that's not healthy, that's on the top of the machine, and it basically has a falling floor, if you would. So it rests on this floor for 15 seconds, and then you get it. So it gives you 15 seconds really to think about what you're buying on one hand and forcing you to wait. If you order something that is healthy, you press it and it drops right out. I think we need to be smart. And I think if you look at the Cornell Brand and Food Lab up at Cornell University, a lot of the work that Brian has done up there talks just about how we merchandise and how we market health. I worked with Michelle Obama on the Chef's Move to School program, and we looked at a lot of his research on how we can help kids eat healthier. And it was simple marketing things. It wasn't, for example, that now adding more sugar to milk so it's sweeter. It wasn't that. It was adding clever names to different healthier foods, and the kids embraced it. We're seeing the same thing, across the country in food banks, where what they're doing is they're now promoting healthier foods. And I think the Partnership for Healthy America is fabulous, is leading the pack, and I applaud, your relationship with them. And I wish that every association would do the same thing that you're leading the industry in working with them, because we have a huge problem. And look around and you look at the number of overweight people with high blood pressure, diabetes, and our healthcare system, and forget about whatever happens with healthcare. Our healthcare system cannot afford the path that we're going, no matter who pays for it or how expensive it is. So it's our job in the industry, in the retail industry, again, across all channels, to be able to empower consumers, whether it's with retail dietitians, partnerships with PHA, getting signage out there, vending machines, all these kinds of things to help people eat healthier. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to die a miserable death. I want to die of cancer and heart disease. No, we wake up in the morning and our hope is that we're going to eat healthier. The problem is there's so many barriers to that frankly, sometimes we give up.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we sell two of those things. One of them is options, so that in the morning when you want your healthy yogurt, you can go to work and you feel refreshed. And by the end of the day, you're a little beat down. You might want a beer or something that's not
exactly.
as healthy. But we got that all at the convenience stores. But we also the time too. We offer giving back time. Try to do it as fast as possible. So instead of having to wait to decide what you're going to order and then 3 hours later pick it up, you can come there and get it and be out the door in 3 minutes. So that's something we're very, very good at.
Yeah, and if you're having that beer first thing in the morning, your name's Jim Morrison. We know that song. So
I'm not judging.
But speaking of music,
but I just want to go back to one thing, Carolyn, that you said about convenience. That if you take a look at what's important to people, taste was always number one by far. Now we see taste, health, and convenience pretty much tied for that number one. So if a convenience store can deliver taste, as again, I keep bringing Sheetz up because I think they and Wawa do an exceptional job on their food service offerings. So you've got them on taste, then you've got the healthier aspect of it, and I know that Wawa is working on healthier offerings, as are other convenience stores, 7-Eleven around the country, and then convenience is the reason that people go there. It's a slam dunk. It's a win, which is why we see all these other formats, including CVS and Walgreens, trying to be the convenience store of the future. but they don't get it. They're not going to be. And that's why convenience stores really need to stand proud and say, here's what we stand for: convenience, but also taste and health.
Oh, I think you just summed it up perfectly. And if you like this podcast, Phil Lempert has his own, Lost in the Supermarket. And Phil, when we have you on next time, we need you to suggest the song for our show that relates to what convenience stores do. Supermarket Guru, Google him there. Great stuff, lots of videos, just about stuff every day. Thank you very much, Phil. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by Nax. For more information, go to naxonline.com.